the shadow frequency, where the veil between this world and the next grows thin, and the things that whisper in the dark are given voice. From the cryptic candlelit studios, deep in the Indiana forests, your host, Matt Wilson, and his spectral producer, Juniper Ravenwood, unearth the forbidden, the forgotten, and the fearsome. So, still your heart, dim the light, and listen closely. For once you tune into the shadow frequency, you may never tune out.
Hey there, friends, and welcome back to the Shadow Frequency. I hope tonight's treating you gently wherever you are, or at least strange enough to keep things interesting. I'm Juniper Ravenwood, and I'm seated here with some new item we've got in the studio. We're calling it the Dead Air Terminal, which is either a very sophisticated case retrieval system or a haunted office machine that feeds on dread and stale coffee. We got a hold of this because the file cabinet was getting a little too ornery, so we figured we let it calm down and use this for a bit. Honestly, at this point, I'm not ruling out either one of those things it could be. So, let me ask the room tonight. Matt, Chris, what kind of file are we pulling up? Haunting? Cryptid? Time slip? Conspiracy? UFO? Ancient mystery? What are we in the mood for?
Let's go UFOs tonight. Something coastal, weird, and just grounded enough to make it feel like it could have really happened.
UFOs it is. That's always a dangerous button to press around here. All right, here we go. I'm typing it in. The Dead Air Terminal warming up, making that little mechanical whine.
Satellite uplink established. Access granted. Searching database. Data scan successful. Processing data. Confirmed.
Okay, there it is.
Received.
All right, and there we go. The file is out. Tonight's case is the Broad Haven UFO Incident. This one takes us to Broad Haven, Pembrokeshire, Wales, in February 1977. A quiet seaside village, a primary school, a field beyond the playground, and a group of children who said they saw a strange silver craft near the edge of the trees during lunch break. Their headmaster separated them, had them draw what they saw, and those drawings became the detail that kept this case alive for decades. Then the story spread beyond the schoolyard into a wider flamp of sightings that helped turn that stretch of Welsh coastline into what people would start calling the Welsh Triangle. Chris, what do you think?
That's the kind of case I love, because it starts small. Kids at recess, adults brushing it off, and then suddenly the whole village starts talking like something stepped through the edge of normal life.
Exactly. It's not some giant military event at first. It's just one ordinary day getting bent out of shape. Matt, what's your read?
It's the drawings for me. A story is one thing, but when you split kids up and they still come back with the same shape, the same dome, the same basic object, that's when it stops feeling like just chatter and starts feeling like a file worth opening.
Then let's open it all the way. Matt, take it away.
You are tuned to the shadow frequency, where every whisper tells a story from beyond the veil. Hosted by Matt Wilson. Produced by Juniper Ravenwood. With Chris Beach. The darkness continues.
Well, first off, Juniper, thanks for digging into the file I guess now the Dead Air Terminal, or whatever you're calling it, pulling out one of the eeriest schoolyard cases Britain ever produced, because that's really what Broad Haven is. It's not a glamorous big city mystery. It's not wrapped in secret bases and official press conferences right out of the gate. It begins with a handful of children in a small coastal village on Friday, February 4th, 1977, out at lunch break at Broad Haven Primary School. Beyond the playground were fields, scrub, hedges, and trees. And somewhere out there, just beyond where a normal day should have ended, the children said they saw a strange silver object. Sources differ on a few fine points over the years, but the core of the case stays remarkably steady. A cigar-shaped or dome-topped craft near the field, a flashing light on top, and at least some accounts a silver figure standing nearby. It was dull out, the kind of damp Welsh day where the sky feels low enough to touch, and maybe that's part of why this story gets under your skin, because nothing about the scene feels theatrical until suddenly it does. Now here's where the case stops being just a playground tale. The kids ran back and told the adults, and like you'd expect, they were not immediately believed. But these children kept insisting. They weren't laughing it off. They weren't dropping it. And according to later retellings, they were adamant enough that the matter did not just vanish with the next lesson. When they were brought back in and questioned, head teacher Ralph Llewellyn had them draw what they had seen separately, and what startled him was how similar the drawings were. I've got a photocopy of those sketches here in the file. Thick pencil outlines, rounded bodies, domes on top, simple but unmistakable shapes repeating from page to page. That's the spine of Broad Haven right there. If one child tells a wild story, an adult can shrug. If a group of children are separated and keep handing back variations of the same object, that is a lot harder to wave away. And once those drawings existed, the case didn't just belong to the children anymore. It became evidence of a sort. Eerie, imperfect, child-made evidence, but evidence all the same, sitting there like a message from the edge of the field. One of the things that makes this case linger is that the descriptions were not all over the map. You see recurring details, a silver object, a broad lower body, a dome, a light on top. Some witnesses later recalled it as cigar-shaped. Some as more saucer-like, but the feel of it stayed consistent, metallic, silent or nearly silent, unnatural, and close enough to frighten children who were not out there trying to become part of UFO history. One quoted witness remembered that it seemed about 300 yards away. Another said he was frightened enough that the moment branded itself into memory. And that fear matters, because broad folklore often gets polished over time, made cleaner, made more cinematic. But Broad Haven keeps a child's fear in it. A lot of these accounts do not read like fantasy fulfillment. They read like kids who saw something they did not have language for, and then had to keep repeating it to adults who wanted a better answer than, "I don't know what it was." That's the eerie core of this whole thing. Not wonder, not excitement, but the cold sensation that something impossible stood briefly beside the ordinary world and let itself be seen. And then the story starts to widen. That's the part people miss if they only know the schoolyard headline. Broad Haven did not remain a single isolated anecdote for long. Randall Jones Pugh, a retired vet and regional investigator with the British UFO Research Association, got involved. And once that happened, the case accelerated. Media crews descended. Journalists came in. The village went from quiet coastal community to national curiosity almost overnight. Former witness David Davies later described the days after the sighting as a wild roller coaster that feels right, because once cameras arrive in a small place, the place itself changes. Everybody talks. Everybody replays the story. Everybody looks harder at the night sky. But in Broad Haven, that attention did not kill the mystery. It fed it. Other people in the area began describing lights, odd movement over fields, shapes hanging low over the landscape, and close encounters that made the school sighting feel less like a single break in reality and more like the first ripple in something bigger moving through Pembrokeshire. That is where the phrase Welsh Triangle starts to creep in, and I'll tell you, that name alone does a lot of atmospheric heavy lifting. It suggests a zone instead of an incident, a pattern instead of a blip. Writers and investigators later used it to describe a stretch of country around St. Bride's Bay, Milford Haven, and Haverford West, where sightings seemed to cluster. Some people thought the answer might lie in the concentration of military sites nearby. RAF Brawdy, the rocket testing work farther north, the strange Cold War texture of that coastline. Others pushed the story much farther into the uncanny and began talking about underground bases, repeated visitations, and beings in silver suits moving through hedgerows and farm lanes after dark. You can feel the case crossing a line here, It is no longer about what a group of children said they saw in a field. It becomes about a region that starts to feel watched, a coastline that begins to collect rumor the way wet air collects salt, and a village that suddenly finds itself living inside a mystery that is still unfolding. And maybe that is why Broad Haven never settled properly, because if this had stayed one brief report from one school, it could have faded into the archive and stayed there. Instead, it spread into conversations about strange lights, silver figures, terrified families, official interests, and a whole district momentarily pulled into a kind of waking folklore. The children's drawings are still the doorway, though. That's the image I can't shake. Not the newspapers, not the documentaries, not the later theories, just a classroom, sheets of paper, and a headmaster discovering that what should have dissolved into nonsense had somehow come back in the same shape again and again, like something outside had impressed himself onto them and followed them indoors. The deeper you look at Broad Haven, the less it feels like a one-off scare, and the more it feels like the first knock on a door nobody meant to open.
And once that door opens in a little village like that, every field and hedgerow starts to feel like it's hiding something.
Yeah, because now it's not just what the kids saw, it's what might have been moving around that coastline afterward.
Exactly, and in the second half, that's where we're going, into the wider flap, the stranger witnesses, and the question of whether Broad Haven was just the beginning. June, over to you.
Okay, that case is already crawling under the skin a little, isn't it? A schoolyard sighting is creepy enough, but once a whole village starts leaning toward the same question, that's when it gets dangerous. I'm sure some of you are already deciding what you'd have believed if you were standing there looking toward that field. Chris, come on in here.
Thanks, June. And yeah, this one's got that perfect shadow frequency feel to it. Ordinary place, ordinary people, and then one strange moment that refuses to stay buried. If you're enjoying the show, please hit like and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on, because it really does help the algorithms find us. Follow us on Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Rumble, and all the major podcast directories. Head over to shadowfrequencypodcast.com for every episode, the companion blog, merch, show notes, and links to every platform we're on. You can also support the show by buying us a coffee on the website, and if you've got a strange story of your own, reach out through the site by email or voice message. Yours might end up on a future episode. All right, June, back to you.
All right, time to fire up the spectral cosmic message materializer. Let's flip the switches. See what this haunted little contraption drags in from the static tonight. Oh, there we go. One paper-thin transmission fluttering out like it crossed a long, dark distance to get here.
Retrieved from the void.
Let's unfold it and see what our listener sent through the noise. This one comes from Elizabeth in Montana. It says, hey guys, I usually listen in the night around dusk out in our mudroom while I'm cleaning garden tools and knocking the last of the cold weather dirt off my boots before I head back inside. There's still that chill in the air here this time of year, and your show somehow fits in perfectly. I listen on Apple Podcasts. My favorite episodes are the ones about UFOs, ancient mysteries, and time travel. The kind where it feels like reality got bent just a little and never really snapped back. Your show makes those quiet Montana evenings feel even stranger in the best way. Thanks for giving the dark corners of the world a voice. Keep the starlight unsettled, Elizabeth. Elizabeth, that is a fantastic note, and I love that image. Spring, dusk, garden tools, cold air hanging on, and the shadow frequency drifting through the mudroom. It is exactly the kind of setting this show was made for, and of course, if the rest of you want to send something in, the email, it is shadowpodcast@protonmail.com. Chris, I think you got a little shadow news for us.
Thanks, June. And Elizabeth, that was a great one. There is something about a spring evening with a little chill left in it that makes strange stories land even harder. Got a little bit of recent Bigfoot news here. A story doing the rounds claims officials in Michigan restricted access to part of the Huron Mountains after thermal drones reportedly picked up an upright figure said to stand around 7.5 feet tall. The same account says investigators recovered oversized tracks and possible hair samples from the area. Now, as ever with these cases, that sparked plenty of debate online, but it's certainly the sort of report that gets the Bigfoot crowd paying attention. Back over to you, June.
That is exactly the kind of headline that makes people stop mid-scroll and go, wait, what? Whether it turns into something solid or not, it's got the same dangerous energy our Broad Haven case has. A sighting, a few details, and suddenly the imagination starts running ahead of the evidence. All right, let's get back into Wales and back into that widening circle around the schoolyard. Matt, bring us home.
You are tuned to the Shadow Frequency, where every whisper tells a story from beyond the veil. The darkness continues.
Thanks, June and Elizabeth. That was a great email. And Chris, that Bigfoot item fits tonight weirdly well because Broad Haven is also one of those cases where the first report is unsettling enough, but the real force of it comes from what gathers around it afterward. Once the school sighting hit the local and national press, people started coming forward with stories from the same stretch of coast. One of the best-known later witnesses was hotelier Rosa Granville of the Haven Fort Hotel in nearby Little Haven. Her sighting came on 19th of April, 1977, a couple of months after the school incident. She reported being disturbed by a strange buzzing noise in the early hours, looking out and seeing a brightly lit oval or upside-down saucer-like object along with two human-like figures. In some retellings, they are described as faceless humanoids with pointed heads. In others, a more boiler-suited measuring figures in glow around the craft. Either way, it is a chilling image, not a distant light in the sky, but figures on the ground, apparently engaged in some purpose of their own while the witness stands frozen, trying to make sense of a scene that should not be there. And Rosa Granville's account mattered because it pushed the whole affair into official channels. She wrote to her MP, Nicholas Edwards, and that brought the Ministry of Defense into the story. I've got another item from the file here. It's a typed copy of the June 1977 MOD communication quoted in later reporting, the one where the head of the S4 Air asked the RAF police for a discreet inquiry and says in essence that he had not even told the minister he was consulting them. Now that is an extraordinary little phrase. Whether you read it as routine bureaucracy or something more loaded, it tells you the case had risen above village gossip. Somebody inside the system wanted to know whether local alarm was real, whether there was a rational explanation, or whether there was enough there to justify deeper specialist attention. Publicly, the line was calm. Privately, there was at least enough concern to ask questions quietly. And once you know that, Broad Haven starts to feel less like folklore imposed on a place and more like a place that forced its way into official paperwork, which is always where the temperature drops. And then there's the Coombs family at Ripperston Farm, and this is where the story starts taking on that full Welsh Triangle atmosphere people still talk about. The family described repeated disturbances, UFOs seen from the road, electrical trouble, cars and televisions behaving strangely, even claims that cattle ended up where they should not have been. But the image that survives most strongly is from 23rd April, when a towering silver-suited figure was reportedly seen at the window while the family watched television late at night. Later commentary on the case says the responding police officer remembered them as the most frightened family he had ever attended in all his years of service. That does not prove what stood outside their home, of course, but fear like that has a texture to it. It has weight, and when you place that beside the schoolchildren, beside Rosa Granville, beside the other scattered reports of lights and forms and movement along the coast, the picture becomes stranger than any single testimony. It becomes a place-based haunting of sorts, not by ghosts, but by intrusions, by visitations, by the repeated sense that something was slipping in and out of view around St. Bride's Bay and leaving people shaken long after it was gone. Now, I said I'd give you one note of skepticism, and here it is, because the case does have one. Later, investigators released files pointed to the possibility of pranksters, especially around some of the silver-suited humanoid reports. There are accounts that local men borrowed silver-lined asbestos suits used by oil refinery workers and went roaming as a joke, and one man, Glenn Edwards, later described doing exactly that, saying the built-in helmet made him look about 7 feet tall. The MOD paperwork also preserved the view that the RAF police thought some of the Welsh panic may have been the work of a practical joker. Now that's real, and it belongs in the case. But here's why Broad Haven does not collapse under that explanation. Even if some of the later humanoid scares were hoax, that does not automatically erase the original schoolyard sighting. The children never really backed away from it. David Davies, one of the witnesses tied to the case, kept saying he saw something unexplained and would stick to that story. So maybe the later flap attracted embellishment, copycats, and opportunists. These things often do. But that still leaves us staring at the same field, the same drawings, and the same unresolved first spark that started the fire. And that is why Broad Haven still has the teeth nearly 50 years later. It resists being cleanly filed under hoax, hysteria, folklore, or visitation. It has too many witnesses, too much atmosphere, too many documents brushing against it, and too much memory still clinging to it. The village became linked with that documentaries later described as hundreds of reports in the surrounding areas. And whatever you make of that larger number, the enduring heart of the case is smaller and somehow more unnerving. Children on a lunch break, a silver shape beyond the playground, adults forced to listen, and a coastline that afterwards seemed to keep whispering the same story in different forms. Maybe that is all Broad Haven ever needed to become permanent. Not proof, just repetition. Just enough consistency to keep the question alive. Because once a place is marked by one impossible afternoon, every shadow, every buzzing night, every bright shape over a field starts to feel less like coincidence and more like a return. And that is the kind of mystery that never really leaves the ground where it landed. Broad Haven doesn't just leave you asking what the children saw. It leaves you wondering what else was moving along that coast after everyone went back inside.
Yeah, and that's the part that sticks with me. The idea that the school sighting might not have been the whole event, just the moment the village finally noticed it.
And that is deeply unpleasant in the best possible way.
It really is. Broad Haven stays powerful because it never hands you closure, only a place, a file, and a shape in the distance that refuses to explain itself. Juniper, take us out.
That was episode 319, the Broad Haven UFO Incident. Tonight, we went from one strange lunch break at a Welsh primary school to a whole region shadowed by sightings, rumors, official interest, and just enough consistency to keep the case alive all these years later. Whether you hear folklore growing around a real event or something genuinely unexplained pressing into ordinary life, Broad Haven remains one of those cases that does not go quietly. And we do have to apologize. You probably can hear a cat in the studio. We've got more than one, actually, and this one's having some kind of issue here running around. Thanks for joining us here on the Shadow Frequency. Be sure to reach out at shadowpodcast@protonmail.com and visit our website, shadowfrequencypodcast.com, for episodes, the blog, merchandise, show notes, and more. And follow along on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Rumble, so you don't miss the next strange file we pull. Hey, you guys want to say goodnight?
Thanks for listening, everybody. However you explain Broad Haven, I think it earns its place among the great lingering UFO cases, the kind that stays with you because it never quite resolves. Take care of yourselves out there and keep looking up.
Always appreciate you spending time with us. Hope wherever you're listening from, the night stays interesting, but not too interesting. We'll catch you on the next one.
Good night, friends. Keep the lights low, keep the signal strong, and if something silver ever appears beyond the edge of the field, maybe don't be the last one to run.
This episode was conjured with a solemn vow to explore the unexplained while remaining bound to the truths that have been unearthed. All interpretations are speculative and offered only for your enlightenment and your entertainment.